Hello and welcome to Euphoria. Euphoria is a community spotlighting diverse TTRPG creatives here locally in Europe. You can support and follow Euphoria on all their socials listed below. And also, this stream is a part of TTRP Girls, a month-long event to celebrate and uplift TTRPG creatives who are women and femmes. My name is Maddy. My pronouns are they, them, and I will be your facilitator for today. I am a white non-binary person with short brown hair hidden under a green bandana. I'm wearing glasses, a green shirt, and a green cardigan. And I have the pleasure to introduce our wonderful cast. Could you please let the audience know your name, your pronouns, and a brief physical description, starting with Megan?
Hello. I'm Megan. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a white woman currently wearing a ridiculous pink wig, but I'm loving it. It's fabulous. And a black top as well. And I will popcorn it over to Aoife.
Thanks, Megan. Hi, I'm Aoife. I use any pronouns. I am a white woman with a sort of very pale, round face. I've got dark brown eyes, medium length curly brown hair, and I'm wearing a dark green jumper. And I will popcorn it over to Midnight.
Hello, my name is Midnight. I am a black femme with blue hair, white lashes, and green lipstick. My pronouns are they, them, and I will popcorn it over to who hasn't gone yet.
Hey, my name is Luyu. I use she, her pronouns. I am an Asian American woman with black hair, a strappy bralette, and a sheer black long sleeved top over it with new traditional tattoo designs in faux velvet. Back to you, Maddie.
Wonderful. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me. And it is now time to introduce the game we will be playing today, For Small Creatures Such as We by Blackwell Games. This game was primarily designed as a solo experience, but it also has co-op rules, which we will be using today. I believe that there is a solo game way back from when Euphoria first launched. So if you're interested in how it runs as a solo game, please do check that out. And I am facilitating this game, but this game has no game master. So I will be playing a character alongside my fellow players, and I'll be throwing to them at every opportunity to get their insights on what they think is going on. This game is all about an alien spaceship crew setting off on adventures in a somewhat peaceful galaxy. If you like Becky Chambers' Wayfarer series or Star Trek, you're going to love this game. And we will be using random prompts throughout the game to help tell our story. But in terms of content warnings, we will definitely be dealing with aliens, unusual biology, and culture clashes. In our session 0, we discussed our lines and veils and also generated a couple of missions for our crew to embark on. So, without further ado, let's begin. We begin our story aboard the Wayfarer, a small ship dispatched by the Galactic Council to carry out a variety of diplomatic and research missions throughout this sector of space. Our crew are not long out of training and still settling into life on board the ship. We are just entering the orbit of the planet Forge, the beating heart of industry in the galaxy. The crew have been assigned a diplomatic mission. They must help organize a cultural event on Forge that showcases the planet's heritage, culture, religion, and art. And we will earn 1,000 currency for completing this mission. But for now, let's check on each of our crewmates and see what they are doing to prepare for their first proper mission. So, I would love for you to introduce your character. Tell me where you spend most of your time on the ship, and why that particular part of the ship is meaningful to you. And I think I'm going to throw to Aoife first. Where do we find your character? What's their name and pronouns? What do they look like?
So Mort, whose pronouns are he, him. Mort is the chef on board this ship. And so, unsurprisingly, you can find him in the very homely kitchen that is set up on the Wayfarer. Mort is granite, sort of mineral-based being, and looks suspiciously like a pestle and mortar. And he is probably about 30 centimeters tall and about 40 centimeters wide, so quite a small little guy. He has a metallic band around the sort of bowl of his body, and from that you see 4 little animatronic metal arms that help him do all his chefing business. And on board the ship, you will see him in the kitchen, which has been adjusted for his short stature. So all the countertops are about sort of 20 centimeters off the ground. But lining the full height of all of the walls, you see just the most vast and incredible spice rack with a little attached mechanism so that he can simply press a button and things will rotate through so that he can easily reach all of his ingredients. On board the countertop, you see you see four containers, each labeled with different sort of rations. You've got some sort of fish-based rations that have sort of splashes of water all over the side. You've got a container that is really just a hemp sack filled with soil and other mulch. You see a sort of another ration box, and then at the end you see a sort of lead-lined container with a large radioactive symbol on it. And yes, he's just preparing for the mission by making sure everyone has their lunch.
Beautiful. Yeah, it is so sweet. And Megan, where do we find your character and what do they look like?
So, if you were to peer around the doorway of the lab, you would find the Wayfarer's resident scientist, the botanist. Zalaria is her name, but she goes by Ria. It's a bit easier to say. And if you were to look and watch her work, she's sort of humming gently to herself. The fungal gills beneath her sort of bell-shaped pink cap are just vibrating gently as she hums this little tune while she works. Um, she's mostly quite pink. She's got a bit of mycelium streaming off of her in all directions, and every once in a while, uh, a bundle will come together and sort of form a bit of a limb almost. And she's using these to do her work. She's interacting with different scientific apparatus, and also there are just plants everywhere in this laboratory. So any surface that doesn't have some kind of tool, some type of equipment, just has plants and mushrooms and ferns and just of all descriptions from every corner of the galaxy. Um, and how she's preparing, she's mostly preparing herself, to be honest, because she is not a diplomat. She is a scientist, and she is good with plants, she is good with mushrooms, but with people, other species, it remains to be seen. She's not quite sure, so she's just calming herself at the moment.
Excellent. And how about Luyu? Where is your character and what do they look like and what are they doing to prepare?
Sure. So right now, in the aquatic chambers of the Wayfarer, we have an unusually free crewmate. Usually, when walking aboard the rest of the ship or being planetside, they are in a suit with a massive sort of like sack area for their humongous head and 8 little leggies for their 8 tentacles. But right now, Spiral, who is an advanced cephalopod looking creature, is at home in the water. And right now, it is squished in very small to a tube, and it's just got one tentacle out as it is leisurely munching away at some final snack before we uh, get to the planet. Um, it's a it's a comfort knowing that inside the ship there are small areas where a creature can hide, where it doesn't have to yet be so exposed to things for so long. But as soon as the event begins, it's going to be suited up like the rest.
Excellent. And Midnight, where is your character and what are they doing?
You can find my character in the reactor core with a lunchbox that looks a lot like the lunchbox you saw earlier in the kitchen with the little radioactive symbol on it. Um, they have long, spiky nails that you see very slowly and very delicately pick out an iridium rod and just take the most delicate crunch and then softly put it down again. Their name was a concept that no longer exists because it was a concept from the earlier universe, but you can call them Plath, and they enjoy being in the reactor core. One, because it has the right shielding so that their snacks don't trouble the rest of the ship, but also because it reminds them of a kind of warmth that existed in a much earlier time in the universe. They are the ship's psychologist. They have seen so many things that they can give advice on, and they know a lot about the planet we're going to. They're not from there, but they've probably spent their most recent bulk of time there before joining with the rest of the crew in their training. They are mostly blue. If you think of kind of a jellyfish, kind of iridescent as they move, they don't wear clothes, their skin is in layers and it moves as if they're underwater as they just walk slowly through the reactor core.
Beautiful. And finally, my character is Chirp, who is a very small, round, bird-like creature. Um, their feathers are green and have that kind of oil slick, also iridescent quality where the light catches it and turns rainbow colors. And yeah, they are perched on a little sort of artificial branch in the shrine. This shrine came with the ship. I don't believe that any of our crewmates are particularly religious in any way, but we've kept the shrine as a kind of place for contemplation and reflection, and also a place for study. And Chirp has got a lot of bookshelves in here with kind of hollow books that they can pull out with their little beak and place on the table and read and discover more about different cultures. They are the resident diplomat on the ship, and it's kind of tricky because they are so small. They are probably about the size of my palm. Uh, they often get overlooked in these big diplomatic situations. So they have to they're also quite timid because they come from a species that was preyed upon for millennia. So they have these instincts that make them quite jumpy. So they're trying to learn to speak up and be a bit more assertive, but it's a bit of a struggle. So I think before the mission begins, Chirp will kind of flutter to each of these locations and gather everyone to meet Mort in the kitchen. So as that, I'm assuming that that's a kind of place where we do a lot of sort of communal ship business, and just make sure that everyone is good to go for the mission. Does anyone think that they have any kind of particular relationships with other crewmates already? Or since we're quite soon out of training, is it more a case of we're still getting to know each other?
I think we're still getting to know each other, but I think there's definitely been a few interactions between us. I know that Mort believes that love and health comes through food, and therefore is very keen to get things right, causing maybe a slight minor nuclear explosion when trying to grind up a hearty plutonium soup for Plath before learning that's not what you're supposed to do with those. So yes, Mort has definitely had a much closer interaction with Plath in the irradiation unit after that incident, but has definitely done his best to get to know the other sort of members of the crew.
Excellent.
I'll say on my end, I think that there are many irrigation sort of like channels leading from the area that Spiral lives in to the in-house like grown plants. Uh, and the tubes are not that big, but I can squeeze myself quite small. So occasionally, perhaps there or in the kitchen rafters, you would hear like a "Whoa," as my character goes by and it greets you or comes to hand you a tool from my section of the ship.
Beautiful.
I think Plath probably goes to the lab a fair bit, just out of a curiosity for what's being discovered. So I've probably spoken to Zelaria a fair bit, just around what you're working on. And yes, I've been in the kitchen with Mort, averting many a disaster when we first joined together on ship.
I think mostly Ria sticks to the plants that she knows well. That's her comfort zone, but she is trying to stretch out a bit more and try to get to know these other people that she's working with. And I think in particular she will have popped to see Chirp from time to time because I think the diplomatic aspect of the mission is perhaps something she's a bit anxious about, and she wants to be close to someone who has that know-how, and maybe some of it will rub off on her as well.
Nice. Yeah, I think Chirp has also been sort of tentatively trying to seek out Ria as well. And also probably Plath because like this the kind of the slower, more kind of gentle, not speedy members of the crew will is eases Chirp's nerves a bit. So, is there anything anyone wants to bring up in this little meeting before we sort of get down to the planet?
I think Plath, as the ship's psychologist, would definitely check in with Chirp around this first diplomatic mission.
Yeah, I think Chirp would kind of flutter onto one of the low counters and say, "Oh, thank you for checking in. I'm very much looking forward to this mission. I think that bringing people together with culture and art is a really lovely thing to do. And yeah, just if anyone kind of doesn't see that I'm there because I'm so small, I'd appreciate a sort of heads up, and if you could point them in my direction, that would be really helpful."
We will. But also don't forget, while you bring people together, your own wisdom and experience will matter.
Thank you. That's really lovely. Um, anything else anyone wants to discuss before we go down? I think Forge is oh, I believe Plath, you have a special knowledge of Forge. What can you tell us about it?
Yes, it is quite an intense planet to live on. There's so much industry, so much work, which I think this art and bringing people together mission will might be a little different culturally than they're used to, but will be a breath of fresh air on a planet with almost no fresh air. So be prepared for that.
Excellent. Yes, that makes sense. All right. Okay, I think it is now time to head down to our first planet. Um, we as a Galactic Council ship, all our food, fuel, and docking costs are taken care of by the Council, which is very handy. But if we need any access to particular services while we're on Forge, there are some that are available that we can pay for out of our own pockets. There are system dealers to buy new ship systems and droids. There are mechanics to repair the ship, but we do have an engineer, Spiral, who can repair our ship for no cost. There's also we don't have a doctor on board, so if we need a doctor, there is one on this planet, and it costs 10 currency per point of health recovered. Um, I have just in my notes, I've just been referring to it as currency. But if anyone has an idea for what the galactic currency is called in this world, I would love to hear it.
I like the idea that it went to some kind of council to decide the perfect term for currency, and currency was like a placeholder term, and it never got replaced due to just sheer bureaucracy.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Nice. Yeah, it's a nice neutral term that just does what it says on the tin and doesn't offend anyone. Yeah, that works for me. Um, but if we want to use any of the services, we need to pull a card from a deck of playing cards. And as the table know, I have these holographic cat cards that I've had for about 20 years. So they will be bringing the TTRP girl spirit to this table. Um, I yeah, we'll need to pull a card from the deck to generate a random planet event. And also every cycle that we're on the planet, we need to roll 1d6 to see if we trigger a planet event. And on a 5 or 6, we draw a card to see what event takes place. And we refer to pages in the rulebook to figure out what prompt we're using. So for our first cycle on Forge, as we're preparing for our mission, who wants to roll our first die to see if we get an event?
I can roll.
Go for it. Yeah.
This is a d6.
D6, yes. Looking for a 5 or 6 for the event.
5.
A 5. We do get an event. Okay. I will try and shuffle these cards and get one for us. Ooh, 10 of clubs. Let's see. Please talk amongst yourselves while I get up the appropriate page of the rulebook. And yeah, maybe talk about like what your character's impressions of this planet are, since it is so industrial and there's so much smog in the air and there's so much activity. It might be different from what your character is used to.
So I'll say Spiral is going to touch the arm of Plath, so that its sensor here can translate its electric signals into words. It touches your arm and it says, "Planet of industry. Industry means machines. Machine need engineer. Small space. Happy."
As you touch Plath's arm, you see a little bit of almost like bioluminescence where the electricity kind of meets their skin. And they say, perhaps there are many opportunities for an engineer. Let's explore and see what comes up. Do you want to help?
It wishes to help. It isn't sure how to throw event.
I'm sure as we spend cycles here, we might find something.
As you are wandering around, you do see a sign saying that anyone with engineering skills can find work in the factories and docks, and it pays 50 credits per cycle. So if you want to kind of supplement the ship's income at any point, you can do so. And it's only characters with the engineering skill who can do that on this planet. The card that we drew for our first planetary event is you are stopped by a crowd of protesters who are taking up the whole street. What are they protesting? How are they protesting? Did they try to get you involved in some form? Now, we don't need to engage with this, but I think it would be interesting to see kind of what this protest is about. Does anyone have any ideas what this protest could be about?
Perhaps could it be connected to the thing that we're throwing a celebration for? I think sometimes cultural celebrations can bring out lots of different kinds of opinions, with lots of high emotions. So potentially, it's a group of people who are against us, potentially either against us celebrating this event, or potentially against people not from the planet throwing the celebration. I'm not sure what that might be, but perhaps that could be the protest.
Yeah. I think to add on to that, I wonder if the remit of this event is potentially to bring visitors from other planets to learn more about Forge, and these people are perhaps more isolationist and don't want strangers from other planets, including us, the people throwing it, to come and interfere with their planet's workings.
Yeah, and I think because what we're doing is kind of art and celebration based, maybe they feel a little unseen as the kind of more the ones that work more in the machinery labs and in the forges and stuff. They're not feeling seen in the celebration.
Yeah, that makes sense. Does anyone have any kind of in-character reactions to it, or do you kind of take it on board, make a mental note?
Uh, So one thing that I think is probably interesting is it's less divided along a species line. There's actually like a great deal of different sort of species in the protesters, but perhaps this is a society that's very has very strict strata of who works, who doesn't work, and what kind of work do they do. And so perhaps they think that we are the pompous sort who come here and throw a celebration for, the upper crust, and they are forgotten. So perhaps Spiral will look to Chirp and say, event is not for small number. Event is for all number.
Yeah, yeah, you're absolutely right. I think we have a marketing challenge to make sure that people realize that this event is for everyone and not just for the hoi polloi or whatever term would make sense in this context. Yeah, this is yeah, really good observation.
I also think Plath, since they're from here, but has probably not been here for quite some time, but maybe recognizes familial lineages within folks that are in the crowd, might go to someone and say, "You remind me of someone that I knew quite some time ago," and say a name, and it's actually like their progenitor several generations back that they know of, and try to establish a connection that way, so it doesn't feel like it's just off-worlders coming back.
Nice. Okay, so I think it is time for us to start the mission proper. We need to mark one cycle as we get caught up on what's happening and use the time to think about the situation and create the characters we'll be interacting with. So there's a table on page 184 if anyone wants to help generating these, and I can draw cards to help do so. Um, so yeah, does anyone have any ideas of like who we need to be interacting with in order to get this event off the ground?
I mean, immediately springs to mind probably some kind of head of tourism board, some kind of well-meaning person who is sort of deeply corporate at the same time.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Let's see. Um, I'll draw a couple of cards to see if they offer any inspiration. 9 red. Oh, they are we find them out in nature. So there is a small maybe there's a small park that is kind of maybe in some kind of force field to protect it from all the smog of all the industry, and it's just like this very tiny, like possibly not super well looked after place in the main city on Forge, and this is where the little tourism booth is, and we go and find this person who is yeah, sort of frantically trying to contact various different embassies across the galaxy, being like, "We're gonna hold this event, come visit, it's gonna be great."
I think that spot sounds just heavenly. I think Ria would be thinking about the mission, but then seeing this open space with the fresh air and the plants and everything around, she's just going to sit down for a moment. She's just going to extend some of her hyphae, her mycelium into the ground and just let it sink in. And she's just going to close her eyes happily for a moment. She's just sort of just vibing.
Nice. So, what do we think this person is called? What do they look like? I'm wondering if they are mechanical in some way to but still have a deep affinity for nature.
I think that makes sense for the world that we're
Mm.
on. Perhaps they're mechanical in nature, but maybe somewhere on their person they have just a little bit of dirt and something growing just in their body among the metal, just to show their affinity for this place.
Yeah, that's lovely. So yeah, I think Chirp will fly up and land on on the kind of counter of this little booth and try and greet this person. And thankfully, they manage to get their attention because so few people come here that any movement, they're like, "Oh, a person! Oh my goodness!" And yeah, maybe they're called something like, um, maybe they're called something like Cog. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe something like like Cog Me Myers, something long, and then they just go by Cog for short.
Yeah, yeah, that's cute. Um, I think what Chirp would do first would be to kind of get some information from this person about what kind of um what kind of event would be most meaningful to the people here and what would be more uniting than dividing. Um, and if anyone has any ideas of what Cog might say to that,
Sure, can I take it?
please do.
So Cog stands tall amongst the foliage here. They have long arms, and you can tell that they have like different attachments that they could put on pruning scissors and other things and the like. And Cog stands and looks at you and says, "Welcome to the biodome. Here we are. This is a small green space for the city, and this is also the tourism hub. I understand that you are the diplomats and the crew sent here to hold the event. This is very exciting. For the bicentennial celebration for our planet, we are hosting, or rather, we are attempting to set up and expand this biodome to encapsulate more of the city. However, we understand that there are social and political challenges with this, and we were hoping that you could bridge this amicably."
Chirp kind of nods and bobs their head in a very bird-like manner and says, "Of course, we'd be delighted to help in any way we can. Are there any sensitive matters that we should be aware of, that we can um, avoid offending anyone unintentionally, as most of us are not from here?"
Hmm. Before that character speaks, Midnight, do you have any thoughts about the things on this planet?
Yes, I think similar to what you were saying earlier about it being trying to avoid it being divisive, maybe what we put together is a blend of machinery and plants um, with the expansion.
That's awesome. So then Cog will say, the expansion of the biodome is not without some occupational hazard for us, for the residents, and for you. The biodomes are normally very tightly regulated and entry is limited. Many people of this planet have likely not interacted with creatures and plants from this biodome. Uh, However, this is meant to exhibit what we are trying to move our planet towards.
Thank you very much. That's very helpful to know. Are there any officials that we need to get approval from for this event? Anyone whose opinion we should seek to make sure that we're going through all the proper official channels?
There are two individuals to whom you should speak. We have a chief botanist of the city. We also need to move some things through council approval, and they're getting held up. Beyond that, simply ascertain what the preferences, dietary preferences of citizens of the city need, and we believe that you can host a great event.
Thank you so much. We will keep you apprised of all of our plans, and if anything comes up that you would like to provide feedback on, we'd be very grateful.
Of course, we're here to help.
Beautiful. Okay. let's is there anything else for this first cycle that anyone wants to do in terms of like information gathering, figuring out what kind of event we should be throwing?
I think Plath would be interested in whoever was maybe the leader or organizer of the protest earlier to
Mm,
make sure that we also speak with them while we plan this.
fantastic. Does anyone have any ideas for what this leader of the protest is like?
Definitely someone prideful in the city. Go ahead.
Mm. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I was thinking someone who is probably as passionate about the city and its culture as Cog is, but probably has concerns around the potential negative impacts of tourism. Because obviously we all know tourism can enrich a culture and it can be a really lovely way of spreading that culture across galaxies, but equally tourism uh, can sort of separate the residents from their culture because it becomes very focused on sort of commerce and so on. So this is probably someone who's really passionate about defending their home, and the home of all the people they love.
Mm, yeah, I think maybe they're worried about gentrification and if people start getting like holiday homes in Forge and driving out the actual residents and making certain districts really expensive and all this kind of thing. Because sadly, unlike Star Trek, we're not in a post-money galaxy. We still have to deal with money.
Still got that currency.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, I wonder if Midnight, do you think that the leader of this protest is the same species as you or a different species?
I think probably a different species, one that's native to the planet rather than just having lived here for a while.
Nice, yeah. So maybe a kind of organic being that is augmented
Mm,
with
yeah.
with mechanical parts. Whereas Cog is kind of maybe more purely mechanical. Um, so maybe has to feels that they have to prove their mechanical cred by speaking for the city in this way. Um, so yeah, maybe why not some kind of quadruped to mix things up a bit, like a but with quite dexterous hands that can assemble very small kind of devices on the factory lines. So
I'm
yeah.
picturing someone a little raccoon-like.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Sort of space raccoon, but with kind of robotic augmentations. Anyone have an idea for a name for this person? Maybe something like Dexter because of dexterous.
Hmm.
I like
I know that's not what Dexter means, but so yeah. Midnight. So your character goes up to Dexter. What do they say?
I think they look at Dexter and maybe, same as before, see a familiarity with some generation long past and um, maybe drop a name of Nim for Nimble as one of their progenitors and say, "You remind me of Nimble. Do you know them? They look just like you."
Oh, that thank you. That is a great compliment.
And they, as you, I think, care deeply for this planet. Do you not?
Of course. Everything that I do is for the benefit of all the people of Forge.
Hmm. Well, what our mission here is for the benefit of the people of Forge as well, or we wish it to be. And we want to make sure you have your say in it. We came across the protest earlier, and we want to make sure you are heard.
I appreciate you coming to me. I hope that this is not a mere tick box exercise where you are simply coming to say that you have spoken to me and that you will actually listen.
No, 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 not at all. We invite you to all of the discussions. We've not started yet, so you will be there from the beginning.
Thank you. I very much appreciate that. I am concerned about the effects that expanding the biodomes will have on the industries in this area, uh, because um, invasive plant species may get into the mechanical workings of the factories and may cause health issues for beings who are not used to organic matter. So I think that those are things that we should really consider uh, when discussing the possibility of expanding the biodome and bringing in outside influences into the planet.
Hmm. So the choices we make of plants and where and how, we'll keep that in mind and we'll keep talking with you to make sure we get it right.
Thank you. And they kind of give you contact details so that you can find them when you need to summon them for various meetings. All right. So I think. Does anyone want to? Ria, do you want to go and see the botanist?
I would love to. Yes, please.
Who has an idea of what this botanist is like? And I can also draw cards if anyone wants a hand with.
I like the idea that maybe similar to Dexter, they are native, but with sort of mechanical augmentations, but perhaps um, they are sort of a kind of plant-based origin with mechanical alterations. And so maybe they don't even see themselves as a botanist, but just a, almost a doctor or something rather than that, because it's kind of their species.
Yeah, I really like that. That's very cool.
Could the mechanical augmentations be nano so that there's both kind of growth and replication alongside the mechanics that kind of blend together plant and machinery?
Ooh, yeah. Yeah, that's very cool. I like that a lot. Yeah, I think in terms of a name, some like what's coming to my mind is Micron. I'm not sure why. I just think that's kind of cute for a nano being.
That's lovely. Or Mike to their
Yeah,
friends.
Mike to their friends. So yeah, Ria, you come across this augmented plant being, um, perhaps in a lab, maybe similar to the one on the Wayfarer, perhaps a bit more well stocked since it is on a planet that has more free access to resources. Does anyone want to kind of take on the role of Mike for this scene?
I
Does anyone
will.
want to? Yeah, go for it.
Um, you wander in, and Mike is kind of picking up things from different places and just teetering them around the lab. And they turn and notice you and go, "Oh, hello! How can I help you?"
Ria is just in awe, looking around at everything that this person has to work with. And when she hears Mike, she goes, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I was just admiring your amazing lab. Oh my goodness.
If you're interested, I can give you a tour. And then
Oh, oh yes,
they
please."
proceed to take you around and go, "This one I grew myself. It's not really supposed to survive here, but I've managed to find a way to get it to thrive. And this one is from the far reaches of the galaxy, and it's thriving here. Oh, and this one's actually from this planet, but it went extinct, but I've managed to bring it back. Oh, it's so exciting. There's so much to show you."
If Rhea had a mouth, it would be agape this whole time, but instead she's just got little fungal gills just flapping and humming in excitement. She is just having the time of her life. Um, oh, I could spend absolutely hours here, but
Mhm.
but we are on a mission.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
if you could meet my lovely crewmates as well. Um,
Hello, hello.
Yes. Well, we're here to help set up an event, a cultural event. It's all about art and the different peoples of this planet and the different ways of living. And well, we want to make sure that everyone is feeling represented and respected. And well, one of my crewmates, they've had dealings with someone who's somewhat opposed to us having an event here, and they expressed some concerns that we might introduce plants that, well, it shouldn't be there or could muck up their machinery or what have you. So, really wanted to come to you and get your perspective on the matter.
Mm. Oh, yes. That is a risk. A lot of the things in here should not really leave the lab before they become a problem. So, anything that we plant, anything that we expand, must be thought about carefully. But I think there are several plants that could be contained. The way that we plant them and the way that we place them can work with the machinery rather than mess it up. I think, yes, 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 yes. There are several options that we can use.
I think Ria just her eyes linger for a moment on this fellow scientist and seeing the meshing of the mechanical and the natural, and she just nods thoughtfully. And yes, I think that's a brilliant idea. All the parts, uh, different as they may be in some ways, working together in harmony. Yes.
Yes, it will be an ecosystem all of its own that works harmoniously. That's what we'll make.
Wonderful. And she's just gazing off as if she can see it all coming together in her mind's eye. And as she does that, she's reaching into her little utility belt that kind of hangs around her waist, or what approximates for a waist. And she's just sticking her mycelium into this soggy lump of dirt that she has in one of the pockets. And she's just taking little bits and absorbing them into her. It's basically trail mix. She's having a munch and a think.
Yeah, the lunch boxes that Mort has prepared are already coming in handy.
Oh yeah.
Um, and, Mort, do you think that you could kind of helm the meeting with the Galactic Council representative who we need to kind of gain approval from?
Absolutely, yeah. I think that you know, Mort passionately believes that food can bring people together, even though he doesn't himself actually eat because he is stone and stones don't eat. But he passionately believes that food can bring people together. Um, so I think he would like to um, see if he could go on some kind of street food tour kind of thing. Like if he can find a local who can take him around all the street food spots and bring the council member along with him as a kind of like, isn't your sort of planet wonderful, and don't you want to like look at all the wonderful things that make it what it is. um this is something worth celebrating, and I think he'd be really keen for all of his crewmates to come with him, but especially I think he'd be really keen for Chirp to sort of be on the other side of this council member, sort of as Mort is buttering him up, as it were, uh, um, buttering up this council member. Chirp is sort of chiming in with that really kind of wise diplomatic stuff of, well, all you would need to do is sign this thing, and we could make this, like that kind of thing. So I think he's Mort's really keen to, yeah, just get down in, like, well, yeah, exactly what Spiral said. It's not about celebrating the few, it's about celebrating everyone that makes up this incredible planet that is Forge.
Wonderful. Excellent. So yeah, Ooh, what kind of street food? I'm gonna ask for everyone at the table to give an example of a street food that you find on Forage. So I think that would be cute. I'll go first and I'll say that there's some kind of hot dog that instead of ketchup and mustard, it has condiments that look like oil. But it is in fact safe for both organic and non-organic life forms to eat. It's just a kind of an aesthetic choice to nod to um, the the industry on Forge. Anyone else have any idea of street food?
I'm imagining like a wooden skewer of at what first glance might look like lizards or something reptilian, kind of stacked upon this piece of wood. But when you poke at it or when you bite into it, it's actually it's not animal, it's not meat, it's just like a bean paste or something that's been molded into this shape.
There's absolutely one that is not palatable for organic organisms, and it is kind of served as molten metal hot and spiced with different types of um, like minerals. Maybe there's like a tiny geode sticking out, but it's just a molten bowl, a molten kind of like jambalaya bowl of metal and minerals.
Excellent.
I think that there is a stall that sells just like grab and go type items. And I'm thinking there is a bread like thing, like a flatbread, and there's also a drink, both of which are cold when you buy them. The intention is you buy them and then you put them on, and with the bread, you can stick it straight on whatever it is, like hot thing that you're working with. And with the cup, maybe you just like set it on top, or maybe it's like a bowl, and it warms up naturally as you're working. Something like a brocade style motifs on one side, and then you just plaster it onto whatever you're working with. And there's different, like strong spices, something to keep you awake while you're working.
Nice. And Aoife, what do you think is on the streets?
Well, I think the only thing that's missing from this incredible feast of street food is a little sweet treat to finish it off. And I think you get a sort of can that rattles because inside it sounds like it's filled with lots of metal cogs, but these are actually sweets, and they kind of dissolve in your mouth like sherbet, and then have a little bit of popping candiness to them. Um, and they're all called sort of mechanical sounding flavors, sort of like she said confidently before thinking about what those might be. They're called sort of things like like Iron Forge and sort of and molten sparks and all these kind of things that don't really describe what it tastes like. But yes, you finish off the meal with sort of popping candy, sherbety sweets in a metal can.
Fantastic. And I think that the Galactic Council member um uh, who I'm gonna give a name like Theodore, just to sort of like quite a fancy name. Uh, Theodore, the Galactic Council member, has spent so much time doing bureaucratic things in offices that they've kind of forgotten the simple pleasures of just wandering the streets, trying different foods, and feels kind of invigorated by this trip with Mort, and sort of rediscovers some favorite foods from past years that they've they've probably just been sat next to the vending machine or the replicator just getting whatever to fuel them through the day. So now they're they've had a little sort of reinvigoration. And I believe as we're about an hour in, it is time for a short break. So thank you so much everyone for playing, and thank you so much everyone for watching. And we'll be back very soon. Goodbye. Welcome back to our game of For Small Creatures Such as We. We are about to get into the nitty gritty of our diplomatic mission to create a cultural event on the planet of Forge. But before we do that, I think it's time for a new cycle in this game. So I would love for Louis, do you have a d6 at hand to roll to see if we have another planet
Yes,
event?
I do.
Wonderful.
That's a 3.
A 3. No planet event today, so we can just focus on the matter at hand. So a little bit of kind of mechanics talk as we figure out how we get this event into motion. So, what we need to do, first of all, is to put forward a solution, which is a favorable outcome for our client, essentially like the planet of Forge. The probably Cog is our most kind of uh, close contact in this situation. And because we're newbies and this is an F class mission, we only need to come up with one successful solution for this. But if we continue to do more diplomatic missions, we would rank up and we'd have to put forward more solutions. I will need to draw a card for the solution and a card for the opposition, kind of people who don't want this event to go ahead. Perhaps Dexter may have some problems with what we come up with. And if the card values match, then it's accepted. And if it's not, we need to come up with the reason that the opposition gives that it's not accepted. And then I put aside the card that we drew for ourselves and return the card for the opposition to the deck. And if the card that we've stored to the side matches a future draw, then we will succeed. So our chance of succeeding increases the more cards that we draw. And for every solution that we put forward that's not accepted, we mark another cycle as we go, and we do another roll to see if there's another planet event. So before we draw the cards, does anyone have any ideas of what our first solution is? What kind of event do we want to propose to the interested parties that we think will be agreeable to everyone?
I think our potentially biggest sort of barrier is, as you said, Maddy, is Dexter. So I wonder if there's something we could do to involve Dexter and their community as like cultural ambassadors, or sort of reps who are kind of part of the celebration in some way, shape, or form, whether that's involved with the running of the day or involved with deciding who supplies various things and which small businesses sort of form part of the celebration. So I wonder if that could be part of the solution, is creating a role for Dexter and their community.
Nice, nice. Yeah. Anyone have any other ideas of what we can put into this solution?
I think that's a brilliant idea. I wonder if perhaps there are some people that don't want to be quite as customer facing is not quite the right word, but at the forefront dealing with people. So maybe they'd want to put their sort of mechanical know-how to use in the actual expansion of the space.
Nice. Yeah. Fantastic. Any other small details that people want to add before I draw the card? It's absolutely okay if you want to hold stuff back in case this one doesn't work, as it's very likely it won't work. Okay, I will draw a card. This is our card. Our card is 7. And then the opposition's card is a 4. So sadly, Dexter is not happy with this. Perhaps my initial thought is that Dexter might be like, you're trying to put the responsibility of like running this event on us when it's your job to do it. We appreciate being involved, but we are not diplomats, we are not cultural liaisons, we don't know how to run an event like this. So I think maybe in our eagerness to involve them, we've perhaps put too much responsibility on them. But that does not mean that we will not find the balance eventually. So I'll return the opposition card to the deck and keep this one. Let's see. Who hasn't rolled for a planet event yet?
I'm happy to.
Please do. So
Okay.
yes, cycle 3, I believe we're on.
That is a 2.
A 2. Similarly uneventful day that we can just focus on the event. Does anyone have any ideas of how we can put forth another solution?
I was thinking, given that we don't want to make the folks that we've brought on board do the actual work, but maybe they're a good source of shared history. Maybe one of the things that we highlight is that kind of intersection between mechanical and nature, and make sure all of those stories get pulled out. And then we do the work of creating what it looks like.
Nice. Yeah. I think maybe Chirp talks to Ria and the botanist Mike about the plants that were previously on this planet and went extinct and that are now being brought back, and that might be a nice kind of sort of centerpiece for part of the sort of exhibition in this cultural event. So yeah, kind of focusing on um yeah, plants and machines working in harmony rather than working against each other. Okay. Any further thoughts for this particular one before I draw a card? All good. Okay. Um, so I drew a 5 for our card and a jack for the opposition. So that is another solution that has not gone ahead, but we've now got 2 cards for us to match with. So our chances of succeeding are increasing. So yeah, I like to think that we're kind of all the solutions that we're putting forward are kind of accumulating and building up and will be used in the final thing, but we've just not come up with everything that we need to make it a success yet. So any ideas for our next day of negotiation and planning? What ideas do people want to put forward?
I've just remembered that Cog said that one of his greatest sort of things that he really wants to overcome is getting approval from the council members. And I've realised that whilst we did schmooze the head of the council, um, we haven't necessarily gotten the okay to throw the celebration or to use the biodomes to host the celebration and bring in all this kind of have the kind of fair setup with the street food and the music and all that kind of thing. So I suspect that a key part will be um, that red tape and getting getting approval from the powers that be.
Nice. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think this is where kind of Chirp's perhaps bureaucratic knowledge of the different regulations of the Galactic Council member planets will come in handy, and also hyping up their teammates and saying that my crew are the best at, and they're going to do a great job, and they've already got great ideas, and they're involving the local community, and just like yeah, really hyping everyone up using because my character has the marketing skill and will be using that in addition to their diplomatic skill in this situation. Any further thoughts on getting the council member on side? Theodore, I believe we called him. All good. So let's give another draw of the card. Oh, that's a jack, but I have replaced the jack because that was the opposition card last time, so that is not a match yet. And then the opposition card is an ace. Okay, so that we're still not matching, but we're getting there. Okay. I'm gonna take the opportunity to roll for a planet event, see if we get one. I got a 5, so we do. Okay. So let's find the page for Forge and draw a card. It is 3. So millions of factories are turned towards the construction of a mind-boggling mega construction in orbit around the planet. What are they making? What does it look like from the surface? What do people say about it? What is its purpose? What is the latest rumor about it? And I think we can almost certainly incorporate this into our pitch for the event if we want to be like, here's a cool mechanical thing that is good as well as the plans. So yeah, any ideas of what this big mega structure is?
So I think I do. So the reason why the biodomes were created initially was an attempt to protect local flora and fauna from the smog or other environmental factors. But what it has ended up doing is isolating nature from a large of the percentage of the population. I think that this large thing that's orbiting the planet is Forge's attempted solution for this. It's going to be a system that is going to evenly distribute rain and hopefully suck back in some of the potentially harmful substances that are on the planet. But and so this is something that is meant to help with the expansion of biodomes, which is particularly important since Forge is transitioning, hopefully slowly transitioning from a just a factory type place to also a place with like more biodiversity and stuff like that. I think that the opposition probably comes from Dexter and other people feeling like, oh, they are putting so much currency into protecting plants, and they're not putting currency into the people who live here. I would say a lot of the propositions that we've put forward so far are how do we incorporate plants, how do we incorporate, etc. And maybe what Dexter is feeling is we've been us raccoon can have been scavenging for so long and we've adapted to this sort of thing. Why are we not receiving as much attention from the government financially and things like that? You're
Yeah.
increasing tourism before you help residents.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really interesting. I like that a lot. Okay. So
Do you
in the
think do
oh,
you
go for
think
it.
that potentially Dexter is also feeling that like not only are they helping tourists before they help residents, but they're trying to present a kind of sterilized version of Forge to tourists. And actually, trash is part of Forge. It's what makes Forge what it is. Like, yes, it's the nature and it's also the smog. That's part of the joy. And he probably feels that some of that is being quite literally scrubbed clean for the tourists.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really good point. So, in the light of this new information that we have come across, how do we want to adapt our solution for this event to make sure that it's agreeable to all parties?
I think if there are proceeds of currency from the event, looking at how that gets allocated would make sense.
Nice. And I'm also wondering maybe a showcase of like great inventions from the past of Forge as well to kind of put more of an emphasis on the mechanical industrial history and maybe some historical research into sort of lesser known workers who weren't in positions of high power but did sort of radical interesting things that have maybe been ignored, some sort of kind of reparative history. That might be a nice thing to like have a talk about or have a little exhibition about. Sweet. Okay. So our card is a 10 of diamonds. And the opposition card is a 3. Sadly, still no match. But we're getting there.
I think Dexter might say the initiatives so far are great. However, how will we know once this event leaves that things will get better planet side? Perhaps what they might like to see is changing the access to biodomes in general so that residents can have access to it more, or making like changing policy. If you already are bending Theodore, the council member's ear, perhaps you could speak to them about just making life here easier or better for residents in general.
Yeah, yeah, that's a really good idea. I think Chirp certainly and would invite any crewmates who want to join in this, would talk to Theodore about kind of maybe instituting a right in a bill of in the sort of existing Bill of Rights for the planet of like access to nature, um, and um, yeah, so making sure that if this biodiversity is going to be more widely available, to make sure that people aren't excluded for whatever reason.
What if
Um,
we proposed something that you do actually see in countries around the world on here, planet Earth, which is sort of access to things like the biodomes and potentially the kind of historic exhibitions, like the people who forged us. That's I was quite pleased with that one. Potentially access to those is free for residents and is paid for by tourists. So tourists have to pay
mm,
for a ticket, but residents are free. And then that way it's kind of actively encouraging that kind of embracing of culture and sort of saying this is for it's paid for by the tourists, but it's for the people just as much.
yeah, that's really good. I like that a lot. Okay, let's see if this is the one. I drew a queen for us. So as a reminder, we've got a 7, a 5, a jack, and a 10. So opposition is a 3. I keep on drawing a 3 for the opposition and then putting it back in. So, but we have come up with some really, really amazing ideas. So we're getting there, and we have a lot of cards on the table that we can match with. So, um, I wonder if at this point Dexter is pretty happy. I think we've done a lot to make sure that the residents of Forge are included. I think maybe at this point it's Theodore who we're coming up against, and it's kind of like these are some quite radical changes you're proposing just for this one event. I think you're overstepping your bounds a little bit. And so we're having, and even though we feel very justified in asking for these things, and it's our place as diplomatic envoys to kind of leave Forge a better place than we found it. Yeah, perhaps in this round of solution, we have to try and assuage fears of Theodore that we're kind of, yeah, um, getting a bit big for our boots in terms of the things that we're asking for.
Potentially, we could present like case studies. I'm thinking using someone like Plath's historical knowledge of just all so many different planets, presenting case studies where similar things have been put into effect and showing like this is how much money it brought into the like this is what it cost the councils, but this is how much money it like how much currency it brought in, and this is the reported increase in resident satisfaction, or we could even maybe go a little smarmy and say like this is the increase in polling numbers for the politicians who approved these measures or something like that, depending on what Chirp believes is most likely to win Theodore over.
Nice. I really like that. That's very good. Um, yeah, I think there's definitely a day of like everyone is kind of crammed into the shrine on the ship because that's kind of our little research space, and everyone's got like a hollow pad or whatever we use to research things, and coming up with like, I found a really good table, oh I found a really good graph, oh come on, let's, yeah, that's really good.
Plath is also giving just a really slow history lesson.
Just like having a podcast on in the background.
Yeah, yeah.
Love Beautiful. Okay, let's draw another card. Drew a 4 for us. And then an 8 for the opposition. Still no match.
How many
Okay.
cards are there in this deck? This is what I want to know.
Yeah, this is just a normal deck of cards. There should like there should be a decent chance of us matching at this point. Okay.
Maybe this one is I've forgotten the name of the botanist.
Oh, Mike.
Micron or
Micron
Mike for
or
Yeah,
short.
Mike.
Mike.
I think maybe we're talking about radical change both politically as well as in the landscape. So maybe there's some things to be thought about how fast things expand, and maybe a bit more care around the planning needed for that.
Yeah. Maybe we set up a kind of a working relationship between Mike and the engineers working on the big mega structure to see if they can kind of offer knowledge to each other to make sure that um, the needs of kind of native plants are being met by these kind of pollution reducing satellites. I'm imagining like kind of a net of satellites over the whole planet
Hmm.
um, that are sort of adjusting the air quality.
One other thing that I think might be great to connect these two together is I think for a long time the botanist and opposition may have had discussions about decorative like ornamental plants versus like, oh, we could use this for like arable food, but then it's not beautiful, or then it's whatever. Maybe they have come up with some sort of solution around native fruit or plants that's like, these are harvestables. It's like berry bushes or things like that, where it's like, this is functional and beautiful, um, so that both needs are served at once.
Nice. I've just realized that we've not rolled for planet events for a while, so does anyone want to roll for a planet event?
Sure. 5.
5. We got one. Okay, we've got a 2. You see some young natives playing. What do they do for fun here? How do other people react to them? Is what they're doing creative, dangerous, rebellious, or good old plain and simple fun? So what are the kids doing on Forge? What are the kids doing these days?
You know what just popped straight into my mind is uh, youths skateboarding on a quite literal half pipe, like sort of discarded manufacturing stuff. So they're skateboarding on a half pipe and potentially even doing graffiti and sort of an expression of creativity and beauty, but because they're youths, and we all know that youths are scary, they're kind of villainized as like these sort of retrobates, and I don't know if that's the right word. They're just making a racket and making a mess on our good quality metal, and those scribbles are so ugly. What does it even mean anyway? Um, so they're probably just having good old innocent fun, and it's being villainized by the older generations.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a prime sort of opportunity for us to go like, here is a blank wall that we're letting you do graffiti on to show that it is an art form. And maybe people can appreciate it. Um, and yeah, and maybe like using one of the like proposed biodome sites as like a skate park as well. I think that would be really cute. Um, okay, let's see. Come on, come on, come on. We got a 4, um, which is on our pile, but so we've got 2 4s, which is annoying. Opposition card is a 9. It's not working. It's not working.
You know what? It's way more realistic to have like 50 quadrillion yards of red tape than to have cultural events. It's over.
Oh
Goodbye.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just gonna make it taste even sweeter.
It is, it is. And yeah, for the audience at home, we have a whole other mission that we generated just in case we
We're
needed
not
it.
playing.
We do not need it. We are sorted.
But you know, when we finish this Forge will be so much better off than if we had just gotten, solution 2 and then we move on.
Oh
Yeah,
heck yeah.
100%,
Solving
100%.
Yeah, the
societal
forge is going to be
problems.
some kind of biomechanical utopia, and it doesn't matter that we potentially could have done a different mission as well, because we know if we hadn't prepared that mission, this would have succeeded on the first try.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, Midnight, could you roll a planet event for us?
One second. 5 again.
5. We got another event. Let's see if this inspires us further. Okay. Uh, already drew an 8, so let's draw again. King. Oh, we're asked to undertake a research mission. Probably can't do that. Focused on Forge, but they warn you that doing so will put you in danger. Who is trying to hire you? What do they want you to find out? What sort of danger do they mean? You will make an enemy by doing this. So I think, yeah, I think Chirps instinct would be to like, no, we don't do the mission. We're trying to create, as you say, a biomechanical utopia here. We don't have time to go and do a research mission. But maybe what the research mission is about will give us an idea of some more of the problems or issues of the planet that we can potentially solve in different ways other than a dangerous mission. What do you think that this mission is proposing to do?
I think dangerous is an interesting word. What I was imagining is maybe there is some sort of native plant that has been over generations cultivated by folks like Dexter to increase yield or to feed constituents better, or what have you. But maybe it grows quickly and wildly, and it's like kind of ugly, and so the city is like, please get rid of this. It's an eyesore. And we decide, no, actually, we're not doing that.
Yeah, yeah. It's like you cultivated it, you gotta stick with it. It's yeah.
Maybe we could find some kind of alternative use for it. So just like we have things like Himalayan balsam around here, and you could make it into a nice gin or something like that. Perhaps we could find a way to make it into a food source or some kind of material that they can use in the factories and repurpose it in some way.
Yeah, maybe like a plant fiber cloth or something like that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Potentially that could even be part of the cultural event, is like as part of the kind of history of Forge, is here is a plant that has been cultivated to meet the needs of the people of Forge, but it's not just for food. It makes a great gin. It's also you can also weave fabric out of it, and perhaps there could be kind of a display of like the wonders of plant, and it's like the most mundane, boring, beige, like slightly dusky gray colored plant. And it's like, wow, isn't this wonderful? Because of all the things you can do with it.
Nice, nice. Okay. Let's see if combining this plant into our plan is the thing that tips us over the edge. Okay, I've drawn 7. I've already got a 7 in the pile. So we'll down to this. Is that another 3 when we don't have a 3 in the pile? That is ridiculous. Yeah, we're still coming up. So what is our obstacle this time? There's something that we haven't yet accounted for that is still causing us a problem. What do we think it is?
You know what I've just thought actually is I don't know if you've ever been to a music festival like Reading or something like that, but they usually take place in large fields. And what happens is most of the year those are sort of arable fields, and then for a weekend in the summer they get flooded with tents and all sorts. And then after the festival, it's just an absolute mess, and also the buses and trains are all just completely clogged up. So I wonder if the thing we haven't thought of is not the event we put on for tourists and for residents, but how we deal with the massive influx of people, and how we clean up afterwards, and how we ship them in and out again.
That's a
Yeah,
good point. We haven't touched logistics at all in terms of having that many people arriving. It's a good idea.
This
yeah,
is definitely a Theodore concern.
yeah, yeah. So maybe there are some disused factories that we can repurpose into accommodation for tourists. That would probably be quite an expense, but once they're done up, then they're there for like the rest of time. They're there for tourists to use, so it might be a good investment. Yeah, and in terms of transport, yeah, what do we think the public transport situation is like on Forge currently? I'm imagining it's not great.
Yeah, I think it's probably quite like there's hardly any schedule. It's quite messy. You kind of just hope you get where you need to go on time.
Yeah, yeah. So maybe we kind of suggest putting some of the funds from the tourists will be bringing in to invest in public transport, which will benefit both the residents and the tourists. Okay, let's see.
This is going to be the one. I feel it.
We got an 8.
We've covered everything now.
What? I keep on drawing the same. Okay, I'm exiling this 3 from the pack. And I am breaking the rules because the game says you can break the rules when it's fun. So I'm gonna because we have done a bang up job. We've done an excellent job. So I'm gonna draw another card. And that's another 3. So the deck is saying no. The deck is saying I want you to come up with something else. Okay. Any further logistics that we need to consider?
This is a silly idea. What if the number 3 is a sign, and that actually we shouldn't be putting on one event? We should be putting on trimesterly events. So 3 events in a solar cycle, so that it spreads out across the calendar and creates consistent jobs for the people of Forge.
We could
You
Mhm.
know
also
what?
do this in
Oh,
different places around
yeah,
Ford.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Because yeah, if we're doing it in the capital, then we're concentrating all the kind of the wealth and the resources in one place, and that can be not so good for the provinces and the regions. So yeah, making sure that it's not just concentrated in one place is a really good shout. Um, okay. Will the deck approve? Oh, another planetary event. I'll roll one quickly to see. I've got another 5. So let's see. 6. Oh, this is something that we've already touched on. Someone complains to you about some native flora or fauna now considered a pest. What does it look like? How is it annoyed
Councilman
then?
member comes back.
Yeah. They offer you 30 currency to get rid of it. If you help, how do you do so? I assume like we just keep getting people coming up like, oh, you've got a botanist with you. Can you help us get rid of this annoying plant? And we're like, no.
We just direct. We're like, you mean this wondrous plant, and direct them to what is now essentially a shrine to this multifunctional plant. And Mort is just like, have you tried the gin? You really must try the gin before you say no to this plant.
Excellent. Yeah, yeah. And hopefully by the end of that interaction, we've got a gin convert with a nice little sort of woven skirt of this plant. Okay. We've got another queen. And do we already have? Yes, we have a 5. We have a 5. We've done it. We've done it.
Way.
What is
Oh,
the
world peace.
what is the final thing that tips us over the edge? Because I realized I didn't ask for a solution in that at that moment. What is the final thing that tips us over the edge to like everyone is like good to go? Let's make this event happen.
So I'll pitch something, which is that right now, the version of Forge that we've interacted with is the capital. But what's wonderful about a planet is that a planet cannot just be one city. And the things that we're putting on in the city, this like plant, this gin producing a, sort of like thing, it's so different when you get to a different part of the planet. Like the event just has to be so different. And I think maybe what is the most revitalizing is these other people who live further out. Obviously they haven't felt politically or socially included for a long time, and maybe it's like, oh, this event that we're hosting elsewhere, it's going to help other local businesses and other ecological situations. And if this becomes a recurring thing, if Forge is to become more tourist oriented and more biodiverse, like, and not just in the main city, then you know the politicians are starting to put their money where their mouths are, and it's actually looking good. It's not just a symbol, right? It's not just an event at this point. Like, it's becoming a cultural movement. At this point, I think we've long converted Dexter and the other people, but I think maybe we needed other people who just haven't been heard at all to be heard, which I think is lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that, and I feel like maybe it's saying that, hey, we're not presenting Forge as this monolith planet. A planet is made of lots of different people and cultures, regional accents and regional. It's not just gin. There's also a wine made out of this plant, and there's also like a really good marmalade. And if you go to the different regions, you pick up on those cultural differences, and maybe presenting Forge as that place with lots of nuance and different, unique, and individual people is what won them over.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think that's lovely. I think what would be a good way to round out this game is to get a little insight from each of our characters as to on the kind of day of launching this festival, what specifically are you doing to make sure that this event goes off without a hitch? So I'm not going to pick on anyone. I'm just going to wait and see if anyone has an idea that springs to mind.
I think. Oh, you go ahead, Lee.
Oh, so what's nice about the capital city of Forge having so many like extremely tall high rises that are all packed very close together is there's a lot of ways that you can incorporate the buildings around into the celebration. So getting ready, perhaps with Dexter, to set off fireworks or to have like other things like come out, not just from the area where the initial biodome is, but just to say, hey, this entire city is in celebration. And I imagine Spiral is squeezing through pipes and handing wrenches and the like to workers and just having a great time knowing that we are incorporating the rest of the city and things that people don't traditionally find beautiful into the celebrations.
Lovely. I think that Chirp is probably flying around from like group to group, and it's probably like welcoming tourists and guiding them to different parts of the festival and saying like, oh, come over here, there's a workshop happening about like using this plant, or there's an exhibition of like innovations from Forge's mechanical past, or yeah, just kind of acting like a tour guide. Um and yeah, I think it's focusing on the tourist in this instance because they feel like it's not really their place to kind of bring the residents into this. That might be more of Plath's area of expertise. So yeah, is trying to spread the word that Forge isn't just this like mechanical monolith, and that the rest of the galaxy should recognize its kind of complex um, sort of interrelationship between mechanics and biology. And who else has got something?
I love that so much. I think as a chef, Mort is very focused on the food of the event, but actually, um, I think leaving the sort of practicalities of the food and stuff up to the sort of counselors and the sort of stewards on the day, making sure that all the food stalls are set up. But I think that maybe there's a stage somewhere, and Mort is there with a Brittany mic um, on, and throughout the day is kind of hosting like various food talks, whether it's like talking to sort of residents who've created like homespun recipes using this plant, to having interviews with local business owners talking about some of the like cultural foods that are sort of native to Forge. And so he's probably a host of like the food tent in the biodome and like talking about all the brilliant things. And because Mort is quite short, he's kind of he's sat on a podium so that he can be the same height as the people he's with. And yeah, he's kind of interviewing people about all the brilliant foods and drinks that you can get on Forge.
Lovely. Who's up next?
I think Plath is similar to what you said, very invested in the people. They are very aware that like news feels different to outsiders versus the folks who are just living there and getting on with their daily lives. So they go around to all the different neighborhoods that they know to kind of let people know what's happening and to encourage them to take part, and to feel like it is for them, not just for the tourists that are arriving. So that's where they spend their time, just with the residents of the city, helping them feel like they can get stuck in.
Excellent.
Wonderful. I think finally, Ria has mostly been spending her time behind the scenes with Mike, making sure everything is ready to go as far as the flora, the environment goes, that everything is safe and welcoming, and as it should be. But even though she's a scientist primarily, she's also an artist at heart, and it's something she likes to do in her spare time. And I think any spare time that they've had during the planning, she's been perhaps back up in her room, creating her art. And for her, that is making these special spore prints of all shapes and colors, something that she makes herself with parts of her. Um, and she's made a big stack of them now, and they're just falling out of her bulging pockets of her utility belt. And she's just going around the event to all the key figures that they've interacted with, all the people that have helped make this possible. And she's just excitedly going up to them and in their own language, thanking them and passing them over a piece of art, a piece of herself.
Lovely. And one last thing before we end this session, because we are employed by the Galactic Council, after every successful mission, we each of us rolls a d6, and on a 6, we have a chance of getting promoted. So could everyone please roll a d6 and see what you get?
That's a 4 for me.
I got a 2.
I got a 6.
5.
I also got a 6.
Nice.
Amazing. We've got 2 promotions. We've got 2 outstanding officers on this mission. So, Mort, what do you think kind of pushed your promotion over the edge for the Galactic Council higher ups?
I think that as in any corporation, the sort of career ladder is different depending on what department you're in. And I think as a chef, it's his innovation with sort of local foods and innovation with flavors and his sort of I would say innovation, but like culturally sensitive innovation that's not kind of stepping on what makes those foods really special. I think that's what got recognized, and it was thought that perhaps he could even take I think maybe his performance on the day and as a kind of like host in the food tent, potentially he's being asked to do a little bit of light training back at the back at sort of home headquarters, as it were, as well.
Beautiful. And for Plath, what is it that got them noticed?
I like to think in this alternate universe that peace is good for business. So with the folks on the planet kind of feeling a bit more integrated and a bit more connected to each other with a bit less friction, there's a lot more opportunities for expansion for the corporation that we work for. So that's what they got their promotion for.
Fantastic. So, with your promotion, you get 1,000 currency, 2 free cycles, and a small gift with no real value. So, what do you think is the gift that you get for your promotion? So, like something like the example in the book is something like a mug, but it could be more personalized to this particular mission. Anyone have any ideas?
I'd like to think a slightly upgraded, branded lunchbox that still has the radioactive shielding.
Very nice. What does Mort get?
Mort gets a travel spice caddy for sure.
Fantastic. Okay. I think that is all the time we have for today. Thank you so much, everyone, for being incredible players. I've had an absolutely wonderful time. I feel my heart is warmed by you all for this game. Could you each please tell the lovely audience where they can find you if you have anything to plug? And going to start with Megan again.
It's been an absolute pleasure, all of you, and thank you so much for watching. I'm Megan. You can mainly find me on Blue Sky these days at Mumble Makes. And I occasionally make games, and you can also find those on itch.io at Mumble Makes as well. And that's me.
Fantastic. And Aoife?
Thank you so much. This has been really exciting learning a new system. You can find me on Instagram. My handle is Kumaruma, so that's Kumarooma. And I mostly do. Well, at the moment, I'm doing a silly little read along, so you can come along and join me for some very cozy vibes.
Fantastic. And Midnight.
Hi, you can find me on Instagram on Midnight Iris Makes. I showcase a little bit of voice acting, a little bit of performance. I also just make nerdy things and just doodle and do art, a variety of stuff. But you can find me there.
Wonderful. And Luyu, who saved this game by coming in last minute. So thank you, Luyu. And where can we
You
find
got
you?
it. Hi, yeah, I've been Luyu. You can find me on Blue Sky and Instagram at Lithiarch. Uh, and I have nothing special to plug, so I'm gonna pop it back over to Maddy.
Thank you so much. I have been your facilitator, Maddy Searle. You can find me on Instagram and Blue Sky at maddyisabstract. And you can also find my solo and duet ttrpg podcast, A Game of One's Own, wherever you listen to podcasts. Big shout out to our producer, JC Darcy, for wonderfully making sure this stream occurs. And please follow Euphoria on socials listed below, subscribe and support us on Patreon, and follow our Discord. And please also check out all the other wonderful streams and videos in the TTRP Girls event this month. And there's still another couple to come. And there's also a casting call right now for 2 one-shots, Nibiru and Campfire. And you can find out more about those on Euphoria's social media. So if you ever wanted to dip your toes into actual play, now is a great time to give it a go. And thank you so much for watching. Goodbye for now.